I can hear it very, very faintly there, but I wouldn't worry about it, Paul.
Yeah, he's nearly finished anyway. He's just standing downstairs and cleaning up the sauces. We talked up the result. We talked about the rest of the turn up and we talked about the rest of the time. And we just talked about
Well, we walked into the Livingston and somebody had it won. The ways of the world.
You right?
Aye, that should do us, Paul.
Alright. Hello and welcome to episode 59 of Celtic Rumours TV, the Bawz and Bovril podcast with your hosts Mark and myself, Paul. Joining us tonight we have Terence, that's Tier61 from our forum page to the podcast, that's Celtic Rumours TV, where Celtic supporters discuss all things Celtic. On today's show we'll talk about yesterday's 0-0 draw against Livingston. We'll talk about the match analysis. We'll talk about did Ange get the first team selection wrong. We look ahead to the Europa League game in midweek against Ferencvaros, and we're going and what's going on with Celtic board at the moment, and are they really considering the appointment of Higgins to a senior security role within the club. Firstly though, Mark will do a few shout-outs.
Yeah, thanks very much, Paul. Some quick shout-outs to Richie, Tim Alloy, Malika and Glasgow Green. Seen on the forum earlier, he's not doing too good, so just keep your chin up, BGG, and hopefully you're back in track soon, buddy. I don't know if Mikey's listening in, but just it's the start of Mikey's stag do this. Well, today a lot of people were arriving at his house for it, but it seems that it's a 3-day event starting tomorrow, so hope Mikey enjoys that and doesn't drink too much or do anything to embarrass the podcast. Podcast. Spit it out, man.
Him and Jonas.
Jonas as well. Well, Jonas has got to keep an eye on Mikey. If anything goes wrong and it's on Jonas's back. We're up to now 508 subs, Paul. We're getting slowly creeping up as we want. So thanks everybody that supports us on here, on the forum and everything. And remember, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and if you know how to, please leave a comment.
Before we move on to show, we just take a look at the latest news around the club. Breaking news from Celtic today have confirmed that no away supporters will be left into Celtic Park for the New Year's Glasgow derby. Celtic fans were blocked out of Ibrox earlier this season after being promised 750 tickets. Are Celtic right to follow suit? And when will we see this ongoing dispute between the two clubs being resolved? I will talk to Mark and Terence a little bit more about this on the show. Former Celtic manager and fan favourite Wim Jensen, who was recently diagnosed with dementia, has revealed in his autobiography after 23 years of silence why he left Celtic less than 48 hours after winning the title and stopping Rangers from winning the 10 in a row. He said his relation with owner Fergus McCann and general manager had broken down and was beyond repair, and that their lack of ambition to spend money or didn't meet his ambition for the club, and he decided to move on. Of course, our prayers and our thoughts are with Fem at this difficult time with his diagnosis of dementia. Ozada Yuhidi looks likely to be leaving Celtic on loan in January transfer window. The 21-year-old Dutch player who signed a 4-year contract in July from Sheffield Wednesday has become increasingly frustrated with his lack of game time at the club. The youngster saw fellow youngster Stephen Walsh, Dane Murray getting first team football before him. Celtic supporters are wondering if Yuhidi is actually part of Ange's plans at the moment, as he was signed in July before Ange became Celtic manager. That's it for the latest rules. Celtic news around the club. Mark will now bring Terence onto the show.
I'm a bit surprised about that, about Ura Gahidi.
Mhm.
That's how you say it. I
Mhm.
thought he came with a
Uh,
bit of a decent reputation, didn't he?
But I was reading it, Mark, and he said that he taught first team football at Preston to come to Celtic, and he's been increasingly frustrated. So it's looking that maybe he might go to Preston.
Well, maybe it's just a case of Paul. He's maybe no good enough to make the step up at Celtic, you know, and a year out in loan or 6 months out in loan will do him the
I
world
think
of good.
the blow to him, Mark, was that Stephen Walsh and kind of Dane Murray at the moment are kind of ahead of him. And I was looking then, is he able to play in the Colts team? And he's actually a month over the age limit to play in the Colts league.
He's kicking his heels then, he's not even
Yeah.
playing any
So
games.
that's the frustration for him. Like, you could be 21, Mark, but I think it's in, you know, like if you're under 14s and if you're kind of a 2 months over that limit where the under 14s is, you can't play for the under 14s, you have to take the step up then to under 15s, you know, when you were younger, you know. So that's kind of the category he was for. I was impressed with him, Mark, pre-season from what I saw him in the games I saw him. Look, I thought he looked strong, he looked sturdy, was, as you said there, Mark, he might...
Maybe things will change with Starfelt's.
Yeah.
Depending on Starfelt's injury and Julian, I mean, it just keeps getting pushed back with Julian, didn't it? I don't know when he's actually going to end up being back in the first team. I think it might be next year.
I think so, yeah, with a hamstring. It looked flagged straight away yesterday, Mark, didn't he?
I'm talking about Julian. I mean, Paul. I know. It was meant to be a few months ago. It was going to be the end of October. It was going to be
November. And
I know that's what they're saying. It'll be the end of November. I'll be surprised if he's back then.
I was reading, and I said it on the live chat yesterday, Mark. Julian hasn't even kicked the ball yet at the training ground. He's not near enough to kind of strengthening training. He's still on very light training with you know,
more than physiotherapy kind of training, that kind of light training.
He train on his own, Mark. Oh, he's only kind of moved on to the grass, basically. And
Terence.
Indeed, lads, how are you?
Oh, thanks for coming on again, Terence. Nice to speak to you again.
You too, lads. Keep them well, I hope.
Just before we get on to show, Terence, the sports news kind of broke today that Celtic weren't going to let Rangers fans in for the New Year derby. Are you in favour of that because of what Rangers did to us at the start of the season? They blocked us out totally, or do you think Celtic are doing the right thing here by not letting Rangers fans in? Or is it getting a bit pissy between the two clubs at this stage?
Look, it's definitely a bit petty between the two clubs. There's no doubt about that.
It's always a bit petty, really, isn't it?
It is, but I can 100% understand and agree with it, Paul, because there's what was done to the Celtic fans pretty much the last minute in the first derby game.
Yeah, when they were promised 750 tickets and it was at the last, kind of the day before, or kind of like that
the night before. Then there's also the nonsense with Neil Lennon and Chris Sutton. Don't think that's been overshadowed, that they're saying that they can't come in because of security reasons. And, you know, to be honest, the derby itself, for me, the whole thing has been taken down by, whether it's at Celtic or at Ibrox, the away fans been reduced by so much.
It is like, because when we growing up, Terence, we used to have the whole end of the stadium at Ibrox, and Rangers fans used to have kind of one end at Celtic Park, and it was just a buzz there, wasn't it? You know, it's after
it completely dilutes the game, Paul. Because if Celtic are like when they won 2-0 there a couple of years ago, when Johnny Hayes scored the second goal, they're running to 700 fans. It's completely different if it's 7,000 fans. And listen, not that you like it, but it's vice versa. When there's 7,000 of their fans, there's an atmosphere in the ground. There's absolutely zero. Like if there's zero atmosphere when there's only a handful of Celtic fans there. And like it all came about because Celtic were continually beating them, and probably Lee Griffiths.
Lee Griffiths right in the head there.
Lee Griffiths tying the flag or the scarves around the post. This is nothing to do with their fans.
No.
Do X, Y, or this is nothing to do with saying, oh, our season ticket holders wanted this and that. It's the fact that they just got sick of being beaten in Ibrox and they couldn't see it ending. Like there was never a situation where Rangers were going for their 9 or 10 in a row that Celtic said, actually, do you know what? We need to reduce their allocation. We need to not have a mass shower of them coming into the parkade. This is just pure pettiness on their behalf. And it's snowballed, and you see it with Heart and Hibs games. You see it with so many games. You watched the Hibs game the other night, even going off the point a bit, but you watched the Hibs game the other night. Half the stadium was empty. Why weren't those tickets given to Celtic? It's you know.
See, I'm a great believer in that terms. See, when Celtic go to these like smaller clubs,
they fill them, Mark, yeah, and it's revenue.
But that's what they should do. They should all just say to their I mean, see if you're going to St Johnstone and places like that, just say to your fans, see when Celtic and Rangers are coming to town, we need to try and get as much money into the club as we can. So we're going to move you all to this one bit so that we can sell the full allocation of these other 3 bits.
But
I mean, if you're a fan of somebody, as I said, St Johnstone or even Hibs or that, would you really bother if you're moving your seat for 4 games a season, knowing that the club is getting a lot of much needed money in it for doing it?
And an atmosphere as well, Mark. You're getting a completely different atmosphere. You're getting a full stadium. The guys in charge of the finances in any of these clubs should be.
You're getting a full. I know you're saying there, Terence, because even I'd say Hibs the other night, if all their fans are at one section, the atmosphere that they'd make would be improved as well.
When they're together, Mark, ain't it? Yeah.
And it's realistically, it's not going to have a massive effect because Celtic had three sides of the stadium against Livingston, and we still lost. So you know,
that was a thing as well. But I don't understand why clubs don't just do that.
But sorry, I know I went off the point a bit, but going back to the derby, I genuinely think the 2 clubs should bite the bullet, sit down. Celtic should have their end in Ibrox, and Rangers should have their end in Parkhead. And there should be the 7,000 or 8,000 fans. Allocation should be back to normal. And I'm surprised that the powers to be in the television don't go, lads, this is nonsense. This is taken away from the game. Because you can't say that it's as big a derby as it was 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago. Because the atmosphere made the derby. And and as I said, there's atmosphere there. But if Celtic had beaten Rangers 1-0 or 2-0 at Ibrox at the start of the season, I know they didn't, but if they did, there'd be nothing. It'd be just silent. It'd be like a pre-season friendly or like a game in COVID. And it's the same would occur. Touch wood, it doesn't occur. But if Rangers beat Celtic at Parkhead in January, and I agree that they shouldn't be allowed in of what's occurred, but if they did, there'll be nothing. There won't be a peep. And it takes away from the game for me personally.
But that's it. Mark Terence hit the thing the head there. It's the biggest game in Scotland, all right? And if you're neutral, all right, we say over in America or now with Asia, with Ange being involved and Australia and stuff like that. And if you're watching a Celtic and Rangers game for the first time and you see no away supporters in it, it's taking the effect, Mark, isn't it?
It's only Scottish game, Paul, that's getting watched all over the world. There's Celtic supporter groups all over the world. Even people will tune in because it's a Celtic Rangers game. People that, do you know what I mean? Even down in England, that they don't watch a lot of Scottish football, but they'll watch the derby.
That, yeah.
But I agree with Terence. It does become. It's not as because the weird teams have got fans in, but it's just the same as like when Livingston come to Celtic Park and it's like a wee pocket of fans. You can hear a wee rumble. I mean, you're not going to hear any rumble, so it's one of a bigger advantage. If we go on about how much an advantage it is for Celtic to be playing at home in a full house, it's an advantage. Do you get what in any game? Then, if you've no away fans to put in any kind of input, it just becomes the atmosphere becomes just all one-sided.
I just think it takes so much from the game. I really do. I as much as we all don't particularly like them, I would love to see them back there for the atmosphere to be back again. As I said, in Ibrox, they have the 7,000 or 8,000 Celtic fans, and the same in Parkhead have their whatever the allocation was.
Maybe see after the next one at New Year, I think maybe they'll do right. You've done it to us, we've done it to you.
Yeah, see, Mark, that's it.
Because it is petty.
It's really.
And who's going to blink first?
Yeah, but in my opinion, Mark, and Terence said it, like it's really up to Rangers to end this, like, because they started it in the first place.
It was in
Do you know what I mean?
Like,
why should Celtic, like, we've always seen that, or Celtic are the bigger club and stuff like that, or Celtic will do the right thing, but it doesn't really come down to that, like, you know what I mean? Like, why should Celtic let a full Rangers supporters into Celtic Park?
Paul,
you know what I mean?
We'll probably get on to it when we go into that subject about the Higgins guy getting appointed, but for once the actual board's made a decision that kind of suits Celtic fans. I mean, because there is a lot of Celtic fans that will be, or don't let them in, just keep it the way it is, and it lets a lot more fans go to the Derby game. A lot more Celtic fans to get into the Derby game, so a lot of the fans will be for it, but I'm not really a great fan of it. So I said, it's just a case of whoever blinks first, and I think, as I said there, after the New Year game, just call it quits and get back to the status quo as we used to do.
Maybe can the Scottish FA do anything about this, Mark? Can they step in? Like,
I don't think so.
You know, is it duly down to the clubs?
Like, anyway, but whatever Celtic's doing is within the rules. There must be some kind of wee loophole. Must just be something.
It could be Skye. Skye could step in eventually, because, like, if you're trying to sell a product, how do you sell a product with Celtic and Rangers? There's going to be 50,000, 60,000 Celtic supporters there. No Rangers. Ibrox, 50,000 Rangers supporters. No Celtic supporters. How do you sell that product? The whole idea of the Derby match was that side is packed with Celtic, that side is packed with Rangers. The atmosphere is through the roof. It's all about the big game, all about one of the biggest derbies in the world. But now you're looking at it saying, this is one of the biggest derbies in the world, right? If you're neutral, as you're saying there, Mark, and you're looking at it from abroad, where are the Celtic supporters or where are the Rangers supporters? Do you know, it doesn't make sense. Like, I hope the two clubs, and also from a financial point of view, as I said, to sell it, the two clubs should use their heads. Do you know?
Yeah, it's getting a bit pacey now, Terence. It's getting a bit.
It's very childish, Paul, because as I said, it takes away from the game for me. The atmosphere is good, but when there was vice versa fans, the atmosphere was dynamite. It was dynamite.
It's not the same, Mark. Glowing up.
Because you know what I mean? I know it's maybe not the right word, but toxicity, the actual toxic atmosphere of the game is one of the things that made it a spectacle to outsiders and things like that.
Yeah.
I went to one of them, and it was just unbelievable. And it was back, obviously, it was a League Cup quarter final or something when Sean Maloney scored a screamer from about 35 yards out, and I was at it. I've never been to anything like it in my life. It was unbelievable, and it was a full allocation. Obviously, back then the Rangers fans, the Celtic Park was rocking. I've never been to anything like it in my life. So hopefully, common sense prevails and they go back to that.
Mm-hmm. Moving on to yesterday's game, a missed opportunity to go top the table for Celtic as we drew 0-0 with Livingston. There's an old saying, if it isn't broken, don't fix it. We knew that Rogic was injured, so he kind of had to be changed. But the big question is, why was Kyogo rested yesterday instead of Giacomarcus? Before the game, the starting lineup was Hart, Radisson, Carter Vickers, Starfelt, Jovanovic, Turnbull, Beaton, McGregor, Abida, Jake Marcus, and Yotter. There were 3 changes from the midweek game against Hibs, with Beaton, Abida, and Jake Marcus coming in for the injured Rogic and rested Mickey Johnson and Kyogo. Carter Vickers had the most touches at 128, with Beaton and Radisson. Beaton on 133 and Radisson 138. Our right-hand side was most effective in attacks at 36%, with 32% on the left and 32% through the middle. A lot of the attacks were through the centre in this game, even though we had loads of crosses in the game through the right-hand side through Radisson. Our possession was 85%. Celtic's pass rate was 799 with a 91% accuracy. Celtic had 16 shots on target. Shots on goal with 2 on target. Livingston had 2 shots on goal with none on target. That's 3 games out of the last 4 where Celtic's opponents had no shots on target against Joe Hart. Celtic won 71% of aerial duels and 33% tackles. Terence, I'll come to you first. A frustrating game again for Celtic yesterday. Like we continue to struggle against a team who sit back or think like, what is it with this system that Ange that we can't break it down, or what's happening there?
It's hard to call, Paul, but I could understand Ange starting Jacko yesterday ahead of Kyogo, just for the simple fact that like Livingston are just awful to watch. They're just awful to watch, and I know people will come out and say, well, they do the right thing.
Yeah, they're entitled to play the way they want, Terence, but I know exactly what you're saying. I mean, we've heard Jonas talking about like going to coming to Celtic Park, and it's a kind of damned limitation. And if you get anything, it's a bonus. But Livingston offered absolutely nothing yesterday.
No, but like it's just like, I mean, from literally within the first 4 or 5 minutes, there was fellas time wasting. There was fella was taking about a minute to throw in and take a throw, and the keeper was taking forever to kick out the ball, and free kick, and this fella had come up. It's just awful to watch. But sorry, I can understand Jacko starting, Paul, because I'd say Ange thought in the last 2 games we played against them, Celtic have crossed over 80 balls. They've crossed over 80 balls, and obviously whether they were good or bad is neither here nor there. He probably said to himself, they sit so deep. The idea of Kyogo making runs in behind them, their centre back is nearly beside the keeper. Like, they literally, the only time they get over the halfway line is when they change at half time. That's the only way the change has, like, because they literally just sit there and they just go, not moving, not moving, not moving, not moving. And unfortunately, Jack would just always seem to get caught the wrong side of the defender. He never seemed to get himself in ahead of the guy. And you know, I just think we didn't have a cutting edge yesterday. You could really see Rogic missing big time yesterday. You know, he was a lot more creative over the last few games, and I just think it was one of those games that they were just trying, and no matter what happened, it just wasn't happening. I know you're going to get onto the main point further into it, like, but yeah, it was just like I was looking at it there. He said in the 2 games that Celtic have played against
81 crosses.
Against Livingston. In the 2 games, they've had like 164% possession out of 2, and they've Livingston at 36. Like, and over the 2 games, Livingston have won 1-0. Like, it's crazy. Like, they've lost. Like, it's a team that's in 12th, or they've 12 points in the league, and they've won 5 of them against Celtic. Like. I mean, that's unbelievable. Like,
I think Mark, like Terence hit the thing there. Like, when the start lineup came out, Mark, and I said the same thing to you. I can see why he's starting Jacob Marcus, because of the physique of Livingston, the way they play, and as Terence said, Celtic's cross rate against Livingston. But the fact is, like, 2 goals on target, Mark. We didn't trouble their keeper yesterday. Something is lacking here.
I mean, even as I said on the live chat yesterday, Paul, I thought it was going to take like a worldly, like I don't know if they're doing player ratings. I've mentioned it in that with Turnbull. Turnbull kind of, there was chances for Turnbull to have a dig for outside the box, and he never seemed to take them. And I think that was missing for the game. And I think if we were taking the kind of shots, we were maybe have made a chance of getting a breakthrough.
Do you think maybe Ange thought to Mark maybe cut that out? These shots that we had last season, do you know?
I really wouldn't like to think so.
You know,
because let's face it. I mean, Turnbull, he'll maybe score maybe 1 out of 5 of them. He's not like going to. I don't think like Ryan Christie or that. I don't think he's going to be the type of player that's right a touch and shoot. It's more a case if he thinks he's got a chance to do that, we'll go for it. Especially when we're sitting there, nothing each against a 10-man defence and a goalkeeper. Really, basically, it was.
So when I was looking through the match landscape, Mark, and the last few games, Mark, you were saying that a lot of our possession seemed to come down the left with Jota, all right? And
I noticed you saying that, Paul. It caught my ear when you said it. It was all down the right hand yesterday.
Yeah, but
Jota played down the right hand for side first.
Yeah, but before that, Mark, the last 2 games, all right? The last 2 games, and especially yesterday, Jovanovic wasn't overlapping Jota. Anytime Jota was out the ring, Jovanovic was in a defensive position, never overlapped him. That's why a lot of our play started coming down the right-hand side with Radisson, because Radisson kept overlapping Abida, he kept overlapping Jota. Now, we criticised Lennon numerous times last season about playing players out of position, all right? Now, I'm not having a DK or Ange, I'm not having a thing, but we have 4 players in our left back position. One who I know who's injured, we have Taylor injured, but we have Bolingoli, we have Scales, and we have Montgomery. All fit players. And we're playing Jovanovic, who's not natural. So I know he can play the mark and he defends well and stuff like that, but it's not his natural position. So that's why he's not overlapping as much as he did on the right-hand side. What's happening? It's really becoming a big problem at the moment, the left-hand side of defence. You know?
Paul, I've spoke about it before. I think if you can play as a left back, you can play as a right back as long as you're comfortable with the ball at either foot. You're doing the same job just on the other side of the park.
But he's not, Mark. But he's not. Since he's on the left, Mark, or the last 2 games since Ivanovic has come into the left-hand side, our main strength has actually been shifted to the right. In the last 2 games, that's our strength is on the right-hand side. Mickey Johnson.
Maybe that's because Tony Ralston's playing so well. Rather than Jovanovic playing so bad.
You know, but is it due to the fact, Mark, that when Montgomery was there, Montgomery was overlapping Jota, providing that space for Jota then to cut in with the ball, that Montgomery dragged the player out, and that was leaving Jota more space to put crosses in from the left-hand side? You see where I'm getting at?
I know where you're coming from, aye.
You know, because you could see it, Mark. It was plain obvious the last couple of games when Montgomery was playing. All our play was coming. You said it yourself. It was coming down the left hand side with Jota, and we were saying, "What's happening with Abidar?" Do you know what I mean? But that was because maybe Montgomery was providing that extra man for Jota to open up a bit of space. Because when you looked at Jota yesterday, he was more central, really, than out in the left. You know, because the ball really wasn't going out to left. It was all kind of through the centre or was through the right hand side. So Jota was coming in. There was really no attack from the left hand side yesterday. You know.
You see, Paul, if you're not a left-footed player and you're on the left side, and say you're going
to have to cut in to cross the ball.
Every time they got the ball yesterday, they turned in. Every time, even when Mikey Johnson was there, every single time he got the ball, it was cut back in or majority of times passed back. if the reason, obviously, Ivanovic isn't going to overlap is because I'm assuming he doesn't have a strong left leg.
The cross,
So
yeah.
like, when Montgomery is there, he's naturally on his left side. So when the ball is played to him, he can take a touch and he can whip it. Or if it's ball and goalie, he can whip it in. If you're naturally a right-footed player and you don't really use your left leg, if you can't really overlap, because as soon as you get the ball, you stop, you have to turn and you have to go back onto your right side. So to me, it takes away from it. So that's probably a telling factor as to why there's not the overlap in fullback if you've got a right-footed player on the left side of the field.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's like there's seriously something up with Ange at the moment, like that. Does he not race Montgomery, Scales, or Bolingoli? That he has to play Ivanovic out of his natural position, Terence, do you know?
Well, the only thing is we've all raved about Janovic's play so far. He has been excellent. But I get your point. I would say Montgomery, he was given a break to. Bolingoli, God only knows.
He made a couple of errors, Montgomery. I said the other week, I thought it was right to take him out of the line a bit.
Yeah, he just took him out of the limelight. Give him a bit of a break. He'll bring him back in. As a Bolingoli, I don't know. Scales,
it's a mystery.
He doesn't seem to be in the picture at all. And the fact that Celtic were linked with the Derby fella, the Derby fullback, Buchan man. There, he's a fullback, left full. So they've been linked with him, and there's talks about that. So I mean, if he comes in, definitely you can't see no chance of Liam Scales coming on. But I do get your point, Paul, because to me, yesterday, they always on the left-hand side. As soon as the ball came out, it was stopped and the player was cutting back in every single time. And I'm sure the Livingston defenders were loving it because they knew this guy isn't going to go down the left. He's always going to cut in. Whereas in fairness to Ralston, when he's on the right, he overlaps continuously. He always gives the option to the winger. He always does. But it's on the left-hand side, there's a bit of a struggle.
Would you drop Ralston to pay Juranovic at right back?
How can you?
We spoke about that before.
See, that's a tough one, Terry.
You can't drop Ralston on his form.
He hasn't done anything wrong. But the problem is, you either say to yourself, okay, I'm going to have to put Jaricek on the bench and put a genuine left-sided player on left back, whether it be Montgomery or whatever, and say to, okay, if the game isn't going, I might have to bring him on. Because Ralston's probably been the best player Celtic have had this season.
Well, he's the most consistent. Definitely the most consistent, I'd say, Terence.
See, that's it, Mark.
He's 7 or 8 out of 10 every week. Every week.
Because, that's it, Mark. There is no reason for Ange to drop Ralston, all right, for Ivanovic. And Ivanovic being a Croatian international, you don't want him sitting on the bench either.
No.
Do you know what I mean? So that's why Ange is maybe playing him on the left because of that. But my point is,
he must be showing up as the best.
That's what I'm saying.
Straight in training, Paul.
Is the likes of Bolingoli, Scales, and Montgomery not good enough, or does Ange feel that they're not up for the task or something, Mark? Do you know what I mean?
None of them's come in and kind of staked a claim for it, Paul. Grabbed the position with the scruff of the neck and said, right, I'm going to look at Ralston. He never, right, even in maybe a wee bad spells in games and lapses of concentration, but he's out there and he's gained 90-100% every single minute of that game. And on the left hand side, nobody's shown that kind of commitment or desire.
There's no standout there. There's been no standout on the left-hand side coming from the full-back position so far. No one has...
if you're a left-back at Celtic, Terence, you're saying, if I get a crack in this team, I'm getting everything I've got. This is my chance.
It's like Radisson, Mark, isn't it? He was the only right back. Yeah, it was like, when Ange came in, he was the only natural right back at the club. And he... whatever.
They said at the time, is that maybe why you only get that year's contract?
Yeah, it probably was. And it's going back to what you said there, Mark. Look, I'm going to take this chance, and that's really what Radisson did, but you look in the opposite side then, like, and Bolingoli hasn't taken it, Montgomery hasn't taken it. Taylor, we saw, was struggling under the Ange system, but he was kind of the first choice really when he was fit, but we could see that he was struggling, Taylor, with the Ange system. So I just think like that.
I mean, no. So what we're saying about Ralston, see Taylor, you probably couldn't fault him for his effort.
Mhm.
It was just, as you said there, Paul, he just seemed to kind of struggle with the system Ange wanted him to play. But I don't mean this to say it's good that he's injured or something like that, but maybe while he is out, he'll maybe be able to sit and watch video. Do you get what I mean? And learn a bit more about the position and what Ange's want him to do.
Mm-hmm.
To be fair,
Because I'll say it, for me, Taylor, if Taylor was fit, I would still be having him playing at left back.
he probably would, to be fair. But you're fair. You're right there, Mark. But I know it probably won't be a popular thing to say, but of the guys that you've mentioned, excluding Taylor, Bolingoli's probably been the best of them. I know he's not.
Kind of gripped the system. Yeah, he kind of fitted the system a bit better, but
He probably has the more athletic ability side to him than the other lads, and he's probably taken to it a bit easier. I know it's not a popular choice because of what he done, but he probably looks most comfortable.
Forget about that. No, I said that in the
Oh, no.
forum as well.
Oh, no, but I know, but some people wouldn't. But I'm just saying, I think he looks the most comfortable of the guys that have come in to play left back. So if he's available,
I'd agree.
he's
I would
available,
probably
why not?
agree with that.
Of the game he played, Mark,
just
like,
a bit
he
more.
was the only one one game he played, like he was the only one really, Mark, who looked more settled in that position. And then he was out of the European game then because he wasn't in the UEFA squad, like, do you know what I mean? And then he seems to kind of drop back out then altogether.
Maybe it's down to attitude or
yeah, we don't.
whatever,
That's what I'm
Paul.
saying.
I mean, but where we're saying about Ralston, his attitude, we're saying Taylor's got that attitude but couldn't work Ange's system, whereas Bolingoli could work the system but didn't have that kind of attitude and approach.
Mm-hmm. So, as Terence stated there, over the two games against Livingston, we had 81 crosses over the two games with no goals. And I was putting this down to, when I was looking at kind of on YouTube there yesterday, Ange at Yokohama, Ange ball, for me at the moment, isn't working at Celtic. The reason because over the two games, now I know people are raving about Roderick and his skills and his stuff like that, but yesterday Turnbull and McGregor were basically practically nearly level with Beaton when the crosses were coming into the box. Ange wants these players like Turnbull, McGregor, or even if it's Roger, these players have to be up level with the wingers, you know, and they're not getting there. Do you get me? You know, they're not moving, we say, into more advanced positions that they should be. Like, you had the likes of Lampard and he's playing this. He was in around the box, scoring goals in around the box. Like, when have we seen the likes of Turnbull, McGregor, Roderick in the box, and the amount of crosses going in yesterday, and every single Celtic player behind the ball? You know, what you say to that, Mark?
Well, I know what you're meaning. I mean,
if you watch, I
mean, McGregor used to do it.
No,
what you're saying, like Frank Lampard, Paul Scholes,
Yeah.
and Paul McStay, arriving at the edge of the box and getting knockdowns and things like that. McGregor used to do that, and well, Turnbull, as I said earlier, we know he can have a ping at the goal, but I know what you're saying, Paul, and I'm trying to.
When you watch, Mark, right? I Terence, you on the podcast when I mentioned this fella Kida, that he was key to Ange ball in Yokohama when Ange balled him in. All he did was just sit behind, didn't move forward, and there was no one with him. All right, and I said in the live chat yesterday, Mark, that that's position that Beaton was doing. He was staying behind the play. Well, as the play went on, McGregor started slipping back more, kind of practically level with Beaton, when that's really not the way Ange wants his attacking midfielders to be. Like, they should be up more.
No,
Do you get me?
we beat on in the team.
McGregor should be there.
McGregor's replacing what Rogic was doing further up the park. I know what you're meaning. He kept drifting back, being too deep.
You know,
and let's force the habit though as well, Paul, because he's
that's like saying because he was playing in that position for so long. Is it just because that he's so used to kind of dropping back now that he was slipping back? You know,
maybe now he's the main man. He thinks even though he's meant to be a wee bit more attacking, but he still feels as if it's his job to come deep and start moves off.
Well, he's probably thinking as well, though, lads, that, okay, Turnbull isn't going to be flying back here. When Rogic is playing, I know McGregor sits a bit more, but he's not going to be flying back to make the tackles. Maybe.
But this is more kind of criticism of really, like, this is Turnbull's natural position. Do you get me? And he's never really in the box, is he? You know,
he wouldn't strike you as the most a speedy, mobile type guy. I know he gets around the park and he's a good passer and he's decent on the ball, but he never strikes me as a guy who's going to be flying up the field, flying back down the field. He always seems to, in the games I've watched him, he would always struggle to get back when Celtic lose the ball.
So
a la Rogic.
I throw that back to then. So Terence, in like, does Turnbull not actually fit the way Ange wants to play? If he's too slow to get back, or if he's too slow to move forward, because as we can see, Ange wants to play fast football. Do you get me? Is Turnbull too slow to for this move that the ball's going into the box too fast and Turnbull's not able to get in there? You know, because when you looked at yesterday, like the crosses, really, as you said there, like at the start, Terence, like Camarcus couldn't get beyond his man. We thought the reason Ange was putting him in was because against St. Johnstone, he got his first goal. He was there. He saw the flights of the ball, but yesterday he couldn't get the flights of the ball at all. He was constantly behind the man. Like, it was like every Celtic player when the crosses, like Radisson put in some great crosses yesterday, like any striker's dream would, like, if Gary Hooper, for instance, when he was playing with Celtic, Mark, he would have loved those crosses yesterday coming into that box.
Well, maybe it's just down to sharpness or that, Paul. I mean, it didn't show the best yesterday whatsoever, but I know we're going to talk about another thing later on, but I just, what you're saying, Paul, there was a lot of good balls going in for the left side and everything as well.
But there was some, like, there was beauts of crosses, Mark, going into that box yesterday. Like, and at times, there was only Camarcus in the box. Do you know what I mean? Do you get my point? Like, there seems to be.
And even if he got up to win the ball, there's nobody there for the second chance. I know what you're meaning. You
know, like a header down, Mark, or even a block by the keeper. Like, there was no, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, the likes of Turnbull and, like, I know Rogic wasn't playing yesterday, but it's been happening now for the last couple of games, and I've noticed it. Like, we have no one in the box when these balls are going in. There's no one in there to pick up the second balls. Like, when
that's back to what I've said about where I would see Kyogo playing, Paul. That kind of second striker, number 10, whatever you want to call it. But that's where I would see him fitting into our team.
You know, if you look how many, and I can't think now, but one of you might be able to, like, we don't score headers.
No,
we don't score any headers. The only headed goal I can think this year so far is Stephen Welsh from a short corner. No,
Tony Ralston the other week.
Oh well, sorry, Tony Ralston against Hibs from the free kick. But in open play, I don't think we've scored from a headed ball from across. No,
that's it. Like,
we're not getting much height in the team, haven't we?
No,
that's one of the things we spoke about with Shaw, Paul.
The ball we put in, like, do you know what I mean?
But that's probably that's probably why McGregor does. Well, I don't say why he doesn't go forward. He should go forward. I know what you're saying for the breaking ball, but McGregor's probably never going to win ahead of it. The fact that Livingston have probably 6-7 guys defending every time in the cross.
But you're there to pick up the scraps. Do you know what I mean? You're do you know what I mean, Terence? You know.
I agree with you that they should be following up, Paul, definitely to win the second ball, and I'm surprised. It's like Mark alluded to a while ago. I'm surprised that Celtic didn't say to themselves, "Look, lads, we need to have a few pot shots," because even if it's on target, the keeper could spill it. You could, rebound, something like that. But I was like what Mark said a while ago. I was very surprised the amount of times I thought Turnbull was going to let fly and they passed it out to the left or passed it out to the right. And Livingston just sat there. And
the only time I saw Turnbull really take a shot yesterday, and I was wondering why he took it. There was times when I thought he needed to take a shot and he didn't. And when he did take a shot, there was about 3 or 4 Livingston players around him. Our decision making seems to be, I don't know, has Ange maybe told them not to shoot back?
I was reading something the other day, Paul, and I can't even remember who it was, but they were talking about all this passing to the side and things like that, and they were kind of sticking up for it and saying that's the way you're trying to break down these teams that defend the way that they do. You're passing it about hoping that somebody slips up,
but you're going to
makes
need
a mistake
a player
but
you're going to need
you shouldn't need to rely on that.
No, but Mark, to do that, to play the ball from side to side, or this is the way to break down the Livingston team, you're going to need Kyogo, who's moving across that front line to maybe make that space, aren't you?
But even at that, Paul, the way to beat teams like Livingston is even get the ball and run at them.
Mm-hmm.
See, you getting Jota in the box and things like that, dribbling the ball. That's what we're going to talk about penalties, but then you're getting a chance for set pieces, free kicks, and things like that, and mix it up a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Take the ball on, try and beat your man, get in the box, or try and make a bit of space and get to Turnbull to have a long distance
exactly
shot.
Because the space is going to be there, Mark, really, to have a shot into.
It's just meaningless passing a lot of the time, and I know it looks good and we're matching all these big
only
teams
one stat really matters, Mark, around at the end of the day, though, didn't you? Could have all these possession stats, Mark, do you know what I mean?
Nothing each against Livingston at Celtic Park.
Do you guys think? I don't think the ball was moved as quickly yesterday as the last 2 or 3 games.
It was a bit Lennon-esque.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of very Neil Lennon, and I've noticed that a lot this season as well, Terence. That when we're playing against teams who have 11 men to get the ball, is it the player themselves that play the way Neil Lennon played, Mark, or it kind of goes that way, doesn't it?
I just thought it was very, very a lot slower than it. Say you watch the Hibs game during the week and even the Motherwell game. No, fair enough. You have 2 other teams that are looking to play football as well compared to the team yesterday, but all the more reason to move it a lot quicker, a lot more first-time passes, and trying to open up space. I just thought every time it was kind of a pass, it was a slow pass, and Livingston just moved across to the left or moved across to the right, moved across to the left. There wasn't a huge amount of incisive passing going on. That it was quick, bang, 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 and all of a sudden it was real speed. I just thought it was a little bit slower. That was only, again, my opinion. I just thought it was a little bit slower than the last couple of games.
Ange Mark seems to kind of struggle against teams who kind of sit back at the moment.
I was thinking that yesterday, Paul. We seem to struggle against teams that are sitting back and backing their defence. I don't know that much about Japanese football, but teams set up like that over there, they'll see that. I'd see that as a bit of an embarrassment to the way they look on their sport and things like that.
Mark, I was looking at on Ange in Yokohama, and as Terence said there, it was all about speed. It was about speed, moving the ball fast, not this 2 touches or thing. It was all just quick moving. Do you know what I mean? The ball was just moving fast. And Terence is right there. Like, it was kind of pedestrian like yesterday. You know what I mean? It was going back to last season, moving the ball slowly, passing the ball back. Do you know what I mean? And that's not the way Ange wants his play. Like, and I don't know why it always kind of reverts to that way. Like that when we play against these teams, like, is it the players,
what
Mark?
I've just said there, Paul? It's as if
Is it the
we're
players, though,
waiting
Mark?
on them making a mistake.
You know, yeah.
We're waiting in the opposition making a mistake rather than us making us dominating. Do you get what I mean? Instead of us putting ourselves on them, we're waiting on them doing something wrong to give us a break.
Mm-hmm. Like, we're not looking
for quality on our side. That's the problem. We're not looking for a little bit of quality to come from us. We're looking for a bad mistake to come from them.
And I'm looking.
That's better, Terence.
We need to look at the quality coming from our side as opposed to going, I hope that defender slips. I hope he misses the bounce of the ball. I hope he misses that header. You know, we have too much quality in the team to be relying on the opposition to make a silly mistake. We should be good enough to be able to expose, like, with the greatest respect to them, they're playing for Livingston for a reason. The boys are playing for Celtic for a reason. The boys playing for Celtic are a higher quality and a higher skill set than them. They should be able, with the qualities that they have, to open up the Livingston defence and provide chances for who's ever up front, whether it's up front or midfield. And that is seriously lacking in the 2 games.
This is my...
And even we've spoke about it as well, with set pieces. I mean, we're no want to rely on beating Livingston with a set piece, but it's still a win. And our set pieces have been really, really poor for. And again, that goes back to Lennon's, probably even a lot of Rodgers' time.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't seem to have any. I mean, do they work on set pieces, or is it just hopeful crosses into the box?
But the thing I don't understand, Mark, is we all know that Celtic aren't the tallest team. We all have agreed with that tons of times. Yet, we do a short corner. It's just when did it start? I can't think of the game. I know Stephen Welsh scored, but it could have been Dundee or something like that. But we do a quick short corner. Kyogo flies out. They're caught rotten. He whips in the ball. Stephen Welsh gets the run on his man and he heads it in. Why, if Celtic, if we're struggling for corners and set pieces, especially corners, because we don't have the height, why aren't Celtic trying to do a quick corner? You know, drag it in, and all of a sudden we've got.
I'm not a big fan of these short corners.
I understand that. But
it's a free cross into the box. You take a free cross, surely.
That's fair enough. But what I'm trying to say, Mark, is if you've had umpteen corners from normal corners and we haven't scored, God knows I can't remember. I don't know if you can remember from a corner. If we can't score, why not try change it up? Even if it's a case that someone decides, do you know what, a training ground one, if it's Turnbull and he whips a low one out to McGregor at the edge of the box to have a pop, something different.
I know what you mean. I'm just saying I'm not a great fan of the just short corners, but I know what you mean. We just mix things up, vary it a bit, and try and catch
him in the
position in the back foot.
My fat would catch the wind more than Turnbull would cross that ball. That's the honest truth, lads, and I'm
how is he going to
basically giving Turnbull's massive criticism tonight, like, because I feel he offered nothing yesterday. You know, nothing. I've been watching him the last couple of weeks, and we constantly said Turnbull, like, his consistency with him and stuff like that. And I think if we signed Mida in January, the Japanese from Yokohama, that he would start up front, and Kyogo would play behind him. And one player I would take out of the team would be Turnbull, because I think he's just lacking. Terence stated there is pace. He's lacking seriously pace to fit Ange's system. You know, that's just me, and I've been watching Turnbull closely now the last couple of weeks, and he's offering nothing. Like, you know, he's like, there was times yesterday that I felt he needed to pass the ball, and and he didn't pass the ball, or taking a shot when there was 4 Livingston players around him. Do you know, he can't tackle, won't tackle, doesn't put in the high press that Ange wants. You know, we're going on to about himself and Roger can't play together, but when Roger wasn't playing yesterday, I didn't see no difference in Turnbull other than his other games. You know?
No, I'd agree with you there, Paul. I've done enough moaning about Rogic and Turnbull playing in the same team, but I didn't see any improvement in him.
You know, it's just, I don't know. You know, he last season, like we were saying, why is Christie taking the corners? Turnbull should, but Turnbull has gone backwards. In my opinion, this season he's gone. Is he not up for the Ange's system or something like that?
106 games he's played, Turnbull.
But I agree, Paul. His crossing when he was last year, free kicks and corners and that. I was certainly thinking he was very, very impressive. But for whatever it is this season, there seems to be some, I don't know, some trait going in there, and Christie used to do it as well, where all of a sudden it's impossible to beat the first man. And the first man might be my height, which is about 5'5", and for some reason they still can't seem to beat the guy with the ball. Turnbull's crossing has. Now again, people are going to say, well, he did whip in the ball for Ralston the other night for the corner or for the free kick. It was a beautiful cross, but it's not done frequently enough. And he was last year. He used to, his delivery was so much better. I don't know.
Distribution, Terence, was one of the best in the team. Like, you know what I mean? Like we were saying, like, why is Christie taking the free kicks? Why isn't Turnbull taking them? But now Turnbull can't even beat the first man. Do you know what I mean?
I don't know whether it's a case that they seem to think that they need to have this whipping ball in all the time, as opposed to just putting a good curling ball in, putting it in a dangerous position, and if you put it in there, you expect your teammates to attack it. You know, I don't know. It's a strange.
At the start of the season, we were saying our defense, like this, our attack seems to be great. It seems to be clicking and stuff like that. And the weak link was the defense, but it seems to kind of turned around the opposite, Mark, hasn't it? Like it's
only one game.
Oh
yeah, I'd be agreeing with you there. Like it's only the game, but
come on, you know what I mean? Yeah,
no, but this is going on the last couple. No, but this is going on. If you watch games back, Mark, like it's been going on the last couple of weeks, like that. The forwards are kind of lacking something. Do you get me? There's something.
We were winning games and said we should have even won games with a lot more, which fair enough. But just because we drew with Livingston yesterday, it's not a disaster really.
Well, I think teams like Livingston identify that Celtic aren't good in the air, and we've seen it in a couple of games like that. Give them the ball. Give them the ball up wide and let them cross it in.
Do you think, Terence, that maybe teams like Livingston have sussed out the way Ange plays?
I wouldn't necessarily say it's sussed out. I'd just say, as I said, apart from the Anthony Ralston header the other night from the free kick and the short corner that led to Stephen Welch, consider their 2 set plays. I can't recall scoring a goal from a header. From a headed play during the season. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm sure someone will is on the live chat or anything like that. Teams like Livingston have probably said, you know what, we'll let them have the ball in the wide positions. Because they've done it all last year as well. Teams done it. They said, let Celtic have the ball in the wide positions. We'll defend all day. We'll defend our back.
That's spot on. I don't think it...
And I think Livingston have looked at that and they've said, let them have the ball. We'll head it. We'll
just back the defence and let them try and work their way through.
Yeah, we'll let them try. And if they want to cross, we'll head it all day long. And that's what they've done. And even this at the start.
It's really a defender's dream, ain't it? Like if you've big defenders having crosses into the box and Celtic not being the biggest team either, Terence, like they're going to take these balls like day and night, aren't they? You know.
Listen, I said they'd eat them like a fat person eats McDonald's. It'd be gone like that in 2 seconds. You know what I mean?
The main talking point of yesterday's game, of course, was the penalty and Ange's decision the change penalty taker before the game. Jovanovic took 2 penalties, scored 2 penalties. When Celtic were awarded the penalty in the dying moments of yesterday, every Celtic supporter was looking to Jovanovic to place the ball, but upset Giamakis and missed. Now, I've been looking at the penalty over and over again, and I don't know if any of you have noticed this, but if you look back in the penalty, before the penalty was taken, Livingston keeper was off the line. All right, hence he narrowed the angle and made the goal smaller. So it was actually an advantage for the keeper. All right, and if you look back at the penalty again, Livingston's number 5 defender was actually in the box running already, even before G. Marcus ran to take the penalty. He was in the box on level par with Bobby Madden. All right. Now, Madden's looking at the defender running into the box. Linesman is looking at the keeper practically off his line. All right. Now, Madden and this linesman a couple of weeks back did the Motherwell and St. Mirren game. St. Mirren got a penalty. They missed. Linesman flagged. Keeper was off his line. Hence, the free kick was retaken. Now, I'm looking back, like, you're looking into poor refereeing and consistency of decisions, like, but if you see it, like, it's night and day that the keeper was fucking about 10 yards off his fucking line, you know? And we take notice of that?
Well, you seen the keeper move a bit, all right, Paul, but...
No, if you slow it down, he's actually way off it, Terence, way off the line.
That's fair enough, but it's still a dreadful penalty.
No.
Like, I mean, it's a dreadful penalty. But let me flip it around, and I understand where you're coming from. If that was the team from the other side of the city, and that happened, and he saved it, and it was retaken, we'd be screaming blue murder. We'd all be going, "Oh, here we go again. They're getting every break under the sun." I'm not disputing what you're saying by any stretch of the imagination, but I think Giamakis' penalty was so bad. I think regardless if the keeper moved as much as he did or didn't move, and I've seen one of the other Livingston fellas, it was clear enough that he was a couple of yards in the box before he struck it, and I agree with you there. But it's just a really poor penalty, to be honest.
But I was looking then to why was Ange's decision maybe to switch penalty takers, all right? So G. Marcus took 12 penalties last season. He scored 9. He missed 3. 75% accuracy. Jovanovic hasn't actually taken penalties, and he was only taking them in training, and he scored 3 penalties out of 4 in training, and that's why he started to take penalties. This is only just with Celtic. He didn't take penalties for Legia, or he didn't take penalties for Croatia or any team he was with. So it was a big decision, Mark, by Ange to change penalty taker, considering Jovanovic took 2 and scored 2. Wasn't it? But Ange being a man, Mark, who likes data and stuff like that, can you see the reason maybe why he switched it over to Giamakis?
To be honest, no, Paul. I mean, if Jovanovic had got up and missed that yesterday, everybody would have been saying why Giamakis not taking it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, the guy missed a penalty, and as we've read for after that, it was agreed that Giamakis was the penalty taker, and if he was on the park, it was going to be Jovanovic, so that's what it is, and he missed it.
That's what I'm saying, like, the decision was taken based on Giamakis being the out-and-out penalty taker, do you get me? Like, took 12, Mark, scored 9, like, that's a good record,
Buzz
really,
just joined the live chat. He was putting up on the earlier on the stats about Giamakis' penalty taking in Holland and things like that. I mean, I agree with Terence, it was a terrible, terrible penalty, and I know what you're saying as well, Paul.
But wasn't it? But really, and I'm looking back on it like, if the keeper's on the line, Mark, like, it's harder for him to get that ball.
We're talking about the letter of the law.
You know, yeah.
Fair dues, it was a penalty, but Kyogo, he made a bit of a melee, didn't he? Let's not be kidding. I mean,
He went down
If you raise
very.
it, I mean, we're going on about that incident at Ibrox,
Hmm.
the Rangers player and the Hearts player when they kind of grabbed each other and they only get a yellow card. But if you raise your hands, aye, it's a red card, and if it's in the box, not a penalty. But I thought Kyogo didn't need to react the way you did. The ref had obviously seen it, or the lineman had obviously seen it. So,
Hmm. But like, of course, we know the result today, and we're not going to dwell on that. But Mark, yes, there was really a chance for Celtic to put pressure on Rangers. Rangers not playing until Sunday and Celtic playing on Saturday. It was a real missed opportunity yesterday, wasn't it?
oh, definitely, Paul was. I mean, everybody really thought it was a formality. I mean, we keep saying it every week. See, as long as we win every game, we'll be happy. But everybody yesterday, everybody was talking, oh, it'll be 3 or 4 nothing, and then as it was getting on, we're like, just geese a goal here for God's sake. And then when we did get the penalty, we thought we were going to steal it at the end, but
Did maybe Mark, that could, maybe, you know, like some teams they're winning so much and stuff like that. Did maybe complacency come into Celtic yesterday? That did they maybe take this game for granted or anything like that? You think against Livingston? You know,
I don't think Ange is that type of manager that would let the players approach any game like that, Paul.
mm-hmm.
I think, to be honest, I mean, it'd be fair to Livingston, they turned up, and the job that they set out today, they done it well.
Well, that's going back to what
we've started podcast, Paul.
And that's
these well-drilled defensive teams.
But that's Mark having the bonus of having Jonas on the podcast with us, because Jonas said it, like any of the bottom teams, like to get a result against Celtic or Rangers, any kind of result, a point or win, it's a bonus for them, like, and you can't fault them for what they're doing. Like, you can't fault them for what they're doing. Like, you know what I mean? They're scrapping for points as well, and it's up to Celtic to break them down, isn't it?
I mean, Paul, that point yesterday could be the difference between getting relegated and no for Livingston come the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So it's no good to watch, and we can moan about having to watch it. As again, well,
but these types of games go on in every league. Do you know what I mean? I always and I constantly say it, like, I believe it's harder to play the teams down the bottom, scrapping for the points, because they're prepared to do the dirty work to get that point. And we saw that with Livingston, like they're prepared to do that, Mark, like hang out for 90 minutes.
Without belittling any player of that, I mean, the Livingston players have went away home last night, and they'll have been delighted to come back for Celtic Park with a point. Had a wee party in that. That was just as good as a win, really, to them. Just getting back for Celtic Park with a draw.
Mm-hmm. Terence, it was wanted. It was like for, I think, every Celtic fan yesterday, including yourself, being on the forum and stuff like that, reading your post, like we were pissed off, like, yesterday, weren't we?
Stalker.
You know.
Oh, it was so annoying to watch. It was just, and it's like Mark said, you're there and you're going, okay, now in these games you just need an early goal against them. If you can get the early goal against them, that's when it can turn into 3 or 4 or maybe a 5-0. But
that's why it's important to get an early goal against them.
Oh, it is, yeah. That's what I'm saying.
To open them up into Terence.
Yeah. Well, because they have to then come out. As long as it stays 0-0, they're not coming out, and then it gets a little bit longer, and then it gets a little bit longer, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh God, we're into the last 10 minutes. Oh, please God, please let it be anything, a ricochet, an own goal, anything. But like you're looking at, as I said, you're talking about, and these are games that go a long way to winning league matches or league titles as well. I mean, Livingston have 12 points so far this campaign, and they've got 4 of them off Celtic.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know? I mean, like we're 4 points behind the league leaders now, I think it is. So, you know, I mean, that's, you know, it's very fine margins, but it makes a huge difference when it comes down to the final tally at the end of the day. And it's, as I said, I don't particularly like watching those kind of teams, but
we've done this to teams in Europe. See what Livingston and the kind of teams coming to Celtic.
I agree. We done it.
We've done it as well. Do you know what I mean? Went and defend it with our lives.
We done it to Barcelona. It's the famous game where Celtic had basically didn't have a ball and managed to win 2-1. But I understand, Mark. I understand where you're coming from.
And then
maybe you're being
when Brendan Rodgers went toe to toe with PSG in Barcelona because we took a towing.
Oh, listen, I agree with you, but I suppose what I'm trying to say is we know before the game, even the balls even kicked what Livingston were going to do, and it's just, I suppose it's just frustration because when it was going to be the first time in over a year that Celtic, if they won, would have been top of the table, that would have just given the players a little bit of a psychological boost.
It's like mind games, Terence, isn't it? Like
it's completely.
Do you know what I mean? Like put pressure on Rangers and see how they can handle that. Then with Celtic winning, Celtic on top of the table. That's what it's about. Like, and that's why it was a huge
filter, Paul. But as soon as the match finished 0-0, their team talk was done for today.
Yeah,
Rangers team talk was done for today. They didn't need a team talk. If Celtic had won, it would have put a bit of pressure on them. It would have squeezed it, and it's just you'd have people going. And I know it's still early doors, but you'll have people going, oh, it was the first test Celtic had no go on top of the table and they blew it.
Moving on
like that.
Moving on from yesterday's game, of course, we have another Europa League title midweek and toss against Ferencvaros. Celtic met these opponents 2 weeks ago with Celtic won 2-0 with Kyogo and an own goal. Mark, we looked pretty comfortable against them again 2 weeks ago, but do you think maybe it's going to be a different game with Ferencvaros being at home and having their home fans, or is it going to be a difficult night for Celtic? Do you think we should come out comfortably on the night?
I think it'll be difficult, Paul, but I think we'll still come out on top. I can't see us going over there and losing.
I think, Terence, the main questions for Ange to think about is, we know Starfelt now is going to be out. Bison slipped back into the back line.
It's got to be Stephen Welsh, please. It's got to be Stephen Welsh.
It's a big question mark, isn't it? You know,
it has to be Stephen Welsh, Paul, because look, Beaton was in the sitting role. You know what I mean? He may still play Beaton.
And to be fair, like I gave Beaton criticism for playing in the back line, and it's no fault to Beaton because he wasn't playing. He's not a natural defender, Mark.
Everybody done that, Paul.
But
no, I wouldn't let that.
Since Beaton, Mark, and yesterday, and when I saw him playing in these defensive midfield role, and I sent a live chat yesterday, Mark, Beaton's the only one at the club at the moment who actually fits that system, sitting in that role, passing the ball.
It seemed to have kind of
more naturally to the mark or something.
Get waylaid, get forgot about that he was this CDM, and for me, he's a good enough CDM for Celtic.
Yeah.
Playing in that position, I've got no problems at all with Beaton. But playing as a centre back, forget it.
Yeah. But you know, as a holding midfielder, he's going to do the job. He's not the guy that's going to go marauding up the pitch. He's going to be that guy that's just going to sit there. He kind of like, in a sense, he kind of ambles around the field, but he reads the game well.
I was just going to say that's the way he reads the game. He's not the quickest.
Beaton is one of the best passers of the ball, Mark, within the Celtic team.
But it will also allow Callum McGregor to go that bit further forward, because if you've got your Beaton behind you and you're McGregor, and obviously they've known each other for so long, you'd have a lot of faith in that Beaton. He's going to stay there. He's not going to be gone missing from in front of the back four or the centre halves. He's always going to be there, and he's going to be looking to break up the play or slow down the ball if the opposition are trying to break. So, yeah, I mean, I've said it here as well. He's not a relation to a centre back, but as a holding midfielder, he's as good as what's there. Obviously, James McCarthy is still recovering.
The biggest.
He's back. I saw Ange saying
he was on the bench already.
Ready
Who's that?
Start playing McCarthy.
The biggest thing for me at the moment is when Beeson is playing, and Terence stated like McGregor was the main man. Now he feels he has to come back, or is it mindset that he was playing alongside Scott Brown last season? Like McGregor needs to stay forward. Do you know what I mean? Like Beeson's the last man. Do you know what I mean, Mark? Beeson has to be the last man.
He used to play when he was a bit younger. He needs to get back being that type of player.
You know, because
but at the same time,
you see McGregor getting in the box, shooting outside the box, getting crackers of goals, and at the moment, that seems to be kind of not in his game. Mark or Terence, has it been? It's not. Hasn't been in his game for a while now, hasn't it?
No, it hasn't. But it's like, as you were just saying there, alluded to, it's maybe the whole time that he's set back in the Scott Brown role, he's kind of developed a bit more into that
like muscle memory.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, Mark. Can't stop himself from doing it.
But that's then kind of has to come down to Ange, maybe to, I don't know, I'm not going to say recoach, or does he have to kind of reassure McGregor that he doesn't need to come back there, that like, because and I keep going back to this lad Kida in Yokohama, because when I watched these highlights and I watched these things, like he was the last man and no one was in line with him when the attack was made. You know what I mean? Like everyone was more forward than Kida.
Is this a different guy who we spoke about?
No, this is the exact same fan of Kida. This is the defensive midfielder that Ange signed for Yokohama, Mark, to make. He was the one, Mark, that...
who was the boy we spoke about in the last podcast? Maeda was it his name?
Maeda, and there's Maeda and there's Kida. There's two players who I think Ange would sign. It's Kida is the defensive midfielder, right, and Maeda, Dijon Maeda then is the forward, Mark. But when Ange took over Yokohama first, they were conceding a lot of goals, Mark. They were conceding things and play wasn't being moving. So Ange identified Kida in the Japanese league. When Dwayne signed him, he coached him for this defensive role. But his role wasn't to attack. His role was to, when the attacks happened, he'd sit like I said, Mark, that Beeson was doing yesterday. Beeson was behind the ball. So he was the last man. So he was there. Kida's role was to when the ball broke, he was the first one to attack, and he was the one then to get the play moving again. But as the game went on yesterday, Turnbull and McGregor were practically in line with Beeson when they shouldn't be. Do you get me?
You know what you mean, and I know what you're talking about.
It was like a 3-man line when that's not the way Ange ball should work. Do you get me? You know, so that's a problem for maybe Ange has to fix. That to reassure McGregor that he doesn't have to step back into this defensive role, that Beeson is there, or it's McCarthy is there.
Man, and any mistakes isn't McGregor's responsibility. Exactly. You're not going to get the blame for him not doing his job, basically.
Exactly. Like that's Beeson's job, that's McCarthy's job, and you know that's the only fault that.
And are Celtic linked with that boy, Paul, or is that just you that's dug him up for watching?
No, this is me watching when I was watching interviews from Ange, and when he said he first took over Yokohama, he said his system wasn't working, and he identified Kida as the player who he needed to make Ange ball work.
He made it click.
He made a click, Mark. He was the one who stayed back and made everything click. You know, he was what did Ange call him? The pivot of Ange ball at Yokohama.
Well, maybe James McCarthy. Maybe he thought James McCarthy was going to do that role for him in Celtic.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. This is the one position that I think is seriously lacking.
Totally clicking kind of thing.
Yeah,
Paul.
This is the one position, like, because Beaton's not going to go in for
it. I mean, if you're saying that, Paul, I mean, we've just said Beaton's not the quickest.
But that's my point here, Mark, is that Beaton isn't going to go in for a tough tackle, is he? Do you get me? He's not the one that's going to go in and tackle the ball, or he's not going to be the one thing. So I really think that if Ange is going to go in, to the transfer market in January, I'd be very surprised if he didn't go in for Keita or a similar player like Keita that has to make this system click, because he can't keep paying McGregor there, because we're losing the total effect of McGregor going forward when McGregor plays there. I know, to be fair, McGregor's done well there, and we can see the passing from McGregor and stuff like that, but he's not the one, Mark, to fill that void. And I really think that we're missing that one player in the middle of in the centre midfield to make Ange's system work faster. A fellow who is not going to sit in the ball. Like Keita never sat in the ball, Mark. He didn't dwell in the ball. He didn't take 2 touches. He got the ball, and he passed it straight away. He knew where the players were. Do you get me?
That would be 2 touches.
Yeah, just the system. He knew the system, Mark. You know what I mean?
But that's why I'm saying, Paul, I do think that James McCarthy was that guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think it's unfortunate due to, obviously, the lads had COVID, and like anyone who's had it, know myself, it just knocks the sugar out of you.
Mm-hmm.
You're bits after it. And like he's a professional athlete. It must hit him 10 times more, because you're trying to get back up to speed, trying to get up to running. You could be physically exhausted from it months later, like headaches, everything. It's awful, like, do you know? So
yeah, I know that for you, Terence, even Tim Alloy and Mikey.
Yeah, do you know,
Mikey was back at work and saying he was walking up a set of stairs and could hardly breathe by the time he got upstairs and things like that. And that was weeks after it. He was hardly clear it.
It's months after it, Mark. Months after. Like, you'd get headaches, you'd be exhausted out of like doing nothing, just constantly tired. It's so, like, I mean, if James McCarthy got a bad dose of it, like, James McCarthy could realistically really be struggling for a while. And as I said, and hear people and they're going on about the injuries and they're going on about this is completely unrelated to an injury. This is just, I
think most of his injuries, it's just like wee knocks.
Yeah,
because he's come up here with no pre-season, nothing.
That's the
and the training's been that intense. He's picked up just daft wee knocks. The injury side of things, nothing serious. I don't.
The benefit Mark, of having a sports science fella walk with Callum back in. Do you know what I mean? Because
I've seen a few of the players have come out and spoke highly that.
But McCarthy was on the bench.
Yeah.
But McCarthy was on the bench an awful lot for Crystal Palace. It doesn't mean he wasn't fit. He just wasn't getting selected. There's a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
No, he said that as well. He said that as well. It was just down to the manager that it didn't fit the system the manager wanted to play.
Like, you're talking.
There's interviews he's done in the last couple of months saying things like that.
You're talking about a guy. I looked it up there recently, and you're talking about a guy. He's played something like 380 games, be it starting with Hamilton and going through with Everton and Wigan and Hull. Like, do you know what I mean? And people would be going on to me about. You'd hear people going, "Oh, he's always injured." You don't play nearly 400 games between Premiership in Scotland and Premiership in England and be injured.
It's just one bad injury in his career.
On the live chat there,
live
chat there, Buzz is saying on the heat map yesterday, it showed how deep Callum Mack was yesterday. Do you know what I mean? So that seems to be one of the main problems, Mark, that Callum McGregor's added to his game, or I don't know, could be mindset, Terence, you know what I mean, of last season. Do you know what I mean?
It's a combination, Paul, of mindset. If he's been playing there last season, being the
senior man and feels he has to kind of dig in, or
if he's been doing
maybe has to see, it maybe thinks I have to be seen always available
being
for
the senior man,
wherever the ball is, I need to be there to get it.
Yeah.
But as well too, if we don't think Turnbull is getting back, maybe he can't. He thinks Turnbull can't get back. Maybe he's going. But I can't just leave Beaton by himself. I've got to get back to help him.
Well, then I'm going to throw it back to you then, Terence, that he needs to sign a defensive midfielder, because it's not the way Ange wants his team to play. He doesn't want his attacking midfielders to be in the defensive role. Do you get me? That's not the way he plays. Do you know what I mean?
I do. Listen, I've said it here on this myself, lads.
I think one of the main compliments to Ange's system at the moment falling is, for me, is Turnbull.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. But Callum McGregor, as we've said here ourselves, all of us have said it. Callum McGregor's best position or best part to play is offensively. He has the eye for the
we
pass.
see with Scotland, Terence. Do you know you see with Scotland, don't you?
They do, because they've got maybe if it's a Scott McTominay or Billy Gilmore or whoever these guys are sitting there, and it allows McGregor to go forward. He knows he doesn't have to come back to worry. But if it's only Beaton that's sitting there, and he knows, well, not sure Jota goes back, I'm not sure Abad is going to come back, I'm not sure Turnbull can get back, then I feel I have to go back. No, again, it's a pure opinion and assumption. But like under say the likes of Rodgers, when Rodgers did play Beaton and he did play Scott Brown, McGregor was always in the final third. And McGregor scored a had double digits, I'm pretty sure, that season. So I mean, I remember in the 5-0 game he went to make a pass to Paddy Roberts, it came back and it was flicked back, it was flicked into him, and he finished for the third goal.
Yeah.
You know, he was always in the front third, whereas at the minute he is, and I understand what you're saying, Paul, he is sitting a bit more. Maybe he just doesn't trust some of them to get back. I don't know.
Mark, what Terence is saying there, and he's saying like maybe he knows people aren't going to defend and stuff to get back and defend, but Ange wants to defend from the top, and Turnbull really isn't that type of player who's going to stick in the leg or who's going to go in for a tackle. Roderick the same, he plays in there. So do you think maybe that's why McGregor's slipping back into this role, because to give Beeson maybe that assurance to get back that we have?
It might be.
Yeah.
It's as we said, it might be just being not used to doing it. Maybe he's looking down the park and think, well, is Beaton going to have one of his brain fart here? Do you know what I mean? Shall need to get back to that, try and cover him. But it gets back to playing beside Scott Brown. That was when he kind of stopped having that kind of attacking.
He stopped having his attacking role when last season when he was constantly kind of labouring Scott Brown or being Scott Brown's second shoulder or something like that, wasn't there? You know?
It was as if he was Scott Brown's legs.
Yeah.
He was doing the work for Scott Brown. He was chasing the ball about and just passing it to Scott Brown.
Well, he was doing it for over 2 seasons, because when Lennon was there, he was literally put beside Scott Brown and basically like, you win the ball, you cover, you win the ball, you pass it to him, and that was it. And don't go forward, because if he goes forward, we're going to be caught out. And it's like that. It's Mark mentioned it there. There's a bit of muscle memory. He's probably so used to playing in that position now, he forgets how good he was in the other part of it. You know, 2 seasons doing it's going to probably do that to you, you know? Yeah.
So this is really kind of Terence, maybe Ange, maybe kind of re-coaching Callum McGregor in this forward role, kind of give him assurance that he doesn't need, like what we were saying to Mark there, if the ball is lost, it's not your fault kind of a thing, like, you know what I mean? It falls on Beaton or McCarthy if they're playing there, that's their job to break up the play. It's not your job, you have to stay forward kind of a thing.
Yeah, and that maybe, Paul, but the problem is in a lot of the games that McGregor's even played this season, he's been in the holding role. It's been
McGregor. See, that's what I'm saying. That's my point, is that we don't have the natural player that Ange needs for the system to work at the moment. Do you get me?
Yeah, it's very hard then to say, okay, I'm a holding midfielder for these 3 games.
Yeah, okay. And then move forward to another role then, Terence. Yeah, exactly. Switch the mind, like it's a hard thing to do, like, isn't it?
No, I've got to go forward, and I'm not going to commit myself to come back and tackle that guy. I'm just not facing back. Callum McGregor leaves everything on the pitch. He's your quintessential professional. He's top drawer.
Whoa, listen to that. Quintessential, man. That's a bit a British word, is it no?
But you know, if you're in that role, and then all of a sudden, okay, I want you to do this for this game, and then the next game you're back in that role again, and then I just think it's like, as I said, keep going back to this, like Mark said, it's muscle memory. He's done it for the last 2 or 3 seasons, 2 seasons with Lennon. He started this season pretty much in that role. So he nearly sees himself as that player, that he's slowly going further and further back, and he's in time, maybe he sees himself as the legs start to go, maybe, so to speak, that this will be my role. I'll be the sitting midfielder. I don't know, it's something that they need to look at, certainly, Paul.
Mark, do you think that maybe Kyogo being rested for the start line against Livingston, do you think maybe he's going to be brought back into the start lineup, that fans started kind of voicing their opinion that Kyogo should have started against Livingston? Do you think Kyogo is a player, Mark, that at the moment we can keep him out of the starting lineup?
Oh, I think he'll start against Ferencvaros, Paul. Just, it's a European game, and it's maybe not a no-win, but a better offensive team with Kyogo playing in it than no in it. So it's just trying. Somebody mentioned it earlier. I don't know who it was. That was going to bring up. They asked, do you think that we should maybe play 3-5-2? But if that would make any difference, but see again, it's funny. It's a weird thing. Kyogo against certain teams. Would Kyogo have made any difference going through the middle? Like starting as our main striker yesterday.
That's, Mark, if we're going to be putting those crosses into the ball, because Kyogo doesn't have the height for it. Do you get me?
That's it.
And that's why I could saw the benefits in playing Jake Marcus yesterday against Livingston. Do you know what I mean? But then it kind of didn't work out because no one was getting in the box with Jake Marcus.
Hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? But
exactly. And if you were picking the start lineup again, like, you probably would nearly put Jake Marcus in there again, Mark, because he's the higher defender. Do you get the forward? Sorry.
You probably would have.
But
I mean, we've said it as well. Football games only won on paper, but on paper, Celtic was a far too stronger team.
But then, Mark, what we saw yesterday as well, and what you've been saying for weeks, and we saw it yesterday, was Kyogo playing behind Jake Marcus yesterday. He kind of slipped into the Rogic role when he came on, didn't he, Kyogo?
Aye, but why not do that for the full game?
Yeah, so do you think maybe Ange might do something like that now, seeing as that he kind of saw it, that Kyogo could play maybe with Jake Marcus, Terence, that maybe play behind him? That's something Ange might think of?
I don't think he'll change it, to be honest, Paul. I think you'll find
one or the other.
One or the other. I think the same as yourself. I think he looked at the Livingston game, and he looked at the previous game, and he saw how many crosses were coming into the box, and you're naturally going to think, okay, I need a bigger physical kind of guy. Look, at the end of the day, if Giamakis knocked in the penalty, no one would even be having this conversation.
Like, what I can't get, like, Terence and Marcus, what I can't get, right? You're saying that Ange, all right, that he knew that Celtic were going to get crosses into the ball, all right? That they were going to get crosses into the box and stuff like that. But then, like, it's up to the players then, like, to know that as well, like, and they should be in the box as well when these things are coming in. And that's why I'm saying, like, that Turnbull is not offering nothing. He's not getting into the box for these balls coming in. He's not there to pick up the second balls, and McGregor wasn't there yesterday either. That's where we seemed to lack yesterday, that there was no one in the box to receive these balls. Do you know what I mean? That's where it failed yesterday. Like, it didn't fail because of the system. It failed because players weren't there to read the ball. They weren't there to say, right, Ralston's on the goal line now. There's only one place this ball is going, and that's into the box. I need to get into the box. That's where it failed yesterday. That no one was there to read the ball, to get into the box, to put pressure on this defence. Do you get me, Mark?
No, I know what you're saying, Paul, but was that down to, well, like, I don't, the system, the whatever, or was it just down to maybe Giacomakis not being up to speed?
I'm not kind of putting that Giacomakis side, Mark. I'm kind of putting it at the likes of Yata.
Playing Kyogo up front wouldn't have made any difference.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not more of blame on Giacomakis. Like, it's more of a blame of support for Jake Marcus. Like, there's no one up there to be up there with him. Do you get me? You know, like he is realistically a lone striker. You know what I mean? And when you're a lone striker, Mark, and everyone knows it, like, you need players to be around your lone striker. And we didn't do that, Jess. Did you get me? We didn't.
He's no any support.
Yeah, there was no one up there with him. You know what I mean? He was up there on his own. And fair enough, he missed flights of ball and he was behind the defenders at times and stuff. Like, you could put that down to him maybe getting up to speed. Like, but for the players, Mark, who are playing week in and week out and basically should be able to do that, Turnbull, he should be in a more advanced role in that box with Jake Marcus to pick up that second ball.
Yeah, it should be in, your attacking midfielder should be in and about the box supporting your striker, Paul.
You know, so that's why that's what I'm saying. Like, and Terence is saying it there as well. It says as well, like, the amount of crosses we put into the box and there was no one in there. Like, sometimes you could say that there wasn't even an advanced Celtic player, Terence, in the box when these crosses came in. Like, these boxes were just going across the line. A tapping would have put these balls into the goal. Do you know what I mean? You know, it was a striker's dream for these crosses yesterday.
It was, but it's like what you were saying there. The striker needs help as well.
Yeah.
And the problem was we don't have, which I remember Mark mentioned it there a while back. We don't have a Stan Petrov. No. We don't have a Stan Petrov. That's I can't remember much that you'll see one of our attacking midfielders getting ahead of the forward. No, yesterday is not something that you can do much because we were so far back. If they got ahead of Giamakis, they'd have been in the stand. Mm-hmm. But generally, we don't have a Stan Petrov that's making those busting runs to get ahead of him. But I agree with what you're saying, Paul. I mean, Turnbull needed to be in around the edge of the box, waiting for the breaking ball, waiting to see if Giamakis can lay one off to him or something like that. Because
I could guarantee you, if Ange would have signed, now Mark, this is the forward for Alameda. If Ange would have signed him, I would maybe put a banker that he would have been in the box when these balls would have came in, because he would have known the way Ange plays. Do you get me? And he would have known where these balls. But that's what I'm saying. Like,
I'd love us to sign him, Paul.
Yeah,
just the videos and that I've seen him.
You know, he would have been in there, Mark. Reading.
But that's what I was saying earlier, Paul, about players that just run.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying. I mean,
Ange's system, Mark, is all about running fast, playing. And that's what I'm saying. Some players, and like Turnbull or things like that, are they not quick enough to play in Ange's system at the moment? You know?
That might be all the more reason to try the Kyogo one. Sorry, Mark.
You go.
Sorry, Mark. That might be all the more reason, Paul, to try the Kyogo one, as Marcus said there. If you're looking at Kyogo, who is a striker, and if you are playing him in the number 10 role, as Marcus said more than once in the podcast, and he's in that David Turnbull role yesterday, his natural instinct will be to get into the box.
To get in the box, yeah.
Will be there to go. There's a breaking ball or something like that, a snapshot, something like that. So as I said,
what's his movement will pull defenders about turns.
Oh, he's like a fella that should be on Strictly Come Dancing. His movement is unbelievable.
They were talking about the balls going into the box and the amount of crosses we had. So if you've got somebody like Kyogo just at the edge of the box making runs, that's attracting their defenders and giving somebody like Giamakis more room.
Yeah, well, he'll have more of an option, Mark, where Giamakis might be 1-on-1 as opposed to 3-on-1 or 2-on-1. You're dead right there. Like, it's gonna, as I said, Kyogo running left or running right will draw guys, and it might give Giamakis a chance of a header or a chance of a shot. Yesterday, like, there was 2 and 3 guys on him continuously, you know. So he didn't, unless it was a serious mistake. Now, Celtic had a great chance when I think Abada played it into Beaton, and he had a terrible touch. He let it run under him when there was no one in front of him. You know, I don't know. Maybe they might have. Maybe it's something they might have to look at, or maybe he just going to keep going with what he's going and wait till January.
Moving on from football at the moment, another main talking point from yesterday's game was the banner held up by the North Cove section in which was aimed at the Celtic board after news broke this week that Celtic are on the verge of appointing an assistant constable in Scotland, Bernard Higgins, to a senior security role at the club. Higgins played a major role in implementing offensive behaviour at football and threatening communications in Scotland Act. For thousands who witnessed their friends, families receive abuse by police in Scotland, in tribunals, this is no laughing matter at the moment by the Celtic board, and it's a big insult to the Celtic supporters, Mark. Now, and I'm going to say, Terence and myself being in Ireland, we don't witness this abuse that Celtic supporters come under. And Mark, I don't know, have you ever witnessed abuse, or have you no Celtic fans who witness abuse? Or
it's been the same even when I was going to football. It's the same, just the same stuff that's been going on for years. And that offensive behaviour at football, like that was just a joke. It would have been good to get Jeanette Finlay on to speak about this.
What is this, Mark? What is this, Mark? This offensive behaviour? Is this like if you're wearing your jersey or something like that? On
it get repealed, Paul. And now again, that was down to Jeanette Finlay and the other wee kind of groupie call it out people and that where it went against it. It basically just made if you were a football fan, you were a bit of a scumbag.
A tug.
That basically was the gist of it, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not meaning just Celtic
and
fans,
Higgins
it was across the board.
Higgins is the main fella behind trying to implement this, Mark, isn't he? He was the fella who brought this, who's basically calling football supporters thugs. Like he's the main man. Like and for the Celtic board to even consider this man, it's insulting to the Celtic supporters, Mark, isn't it?
What 100%, Paul? A million %. Again, I'm saying Jeanette Finlay would have been good to talk about this, but Welshie, I mean, I bet you Welshie could tell you some stories about what this guy's really all about. See if you actually Google his name, he's a bit of a scumbag himself in real life, to be honest.
Terence, I know, like, you obviously with myself, Terence, you stand with Celtic supporters in this appointment, but it is kind of the Celtic board kind of distanced themselves from the Celtic supporters even more in this by even considering this appointment.
Oh, listen, it is, Paul, because the powers to be surely knew the impact it was going to have mentioning this guy's name to the Celtic support. To say this guy is now going to be an employee of Celtic. Like, as I said, I'm like you, Paul. I wouldn't have known much about it. Obviously, been from over here, but I like what Marcus said.
We read the stories.
I've seen Welchie put up a big post on the Discord all about it, and you can see the irate from the people who've obviously seen it firsthand and either happened to them, their friends, their family, and like it's clueless from Celtic. It's absolutely clueless from Celtic to think that this was a good thing to do. Like it shows a complete disregard for the fans to go, well, we're going to do this. If you like it, fair enough. If you don't, we don't care either way. Because that's the way it comes across like
that.
I mean, look, compare Celtic appointing this guy to the Rangers PR man for the DUP. It shows you how. I mean, that's playing to the gallery for Rangers. Yeah, that's got their fans right on side, and our board just went. Oh,
it is. I
mean, I'm not saying getting Jerry Adams in, but do you get what I mean? Just to go for this guy Higgins is just.
In a sense, they're getting one of their own. We're getting one of
their own, I know.
Yeah, that, and I completely understand. Whereas there is numerous other areas that they could have got someone for this role. Without riling up people beyond all belief.
But just there is a but here, Terence.
There is a but. Right.
And this is the big but.
No.
Are we getting mixed up here?
Yeah, are we getting mixed up here that there's another Bernard Higgins floating about Celtic at the moment and his name is actually Benny Higgins, who is in line to replace Ian Banker as chairman of Celtic. And has the North Cove maybe acted too quickly in doing the names, Mark? Because myself and you looked into it, and Benny McCarthy, he's with Scotland Bank, Mark. He was with Tesco's.
Benny McCarthy.
Yeah.
Benny Higgins.
Benny Higgins, sorry. He was with Tesco's, Mark. He was with the Scotland Bank, and he's actually supposed to be in line to replace Ian Bank at the moment, didn't he?
Well, that was a kind of murmurings, Paul. And I've seen some people on Twitter actually asked, I don't know if it was Celtic shared, whoever, but they said no, it's a the police plan. But there seems to have been a kind of wee rumour for the last few months that Benny Higgins, who was it you said there, Tesco Bank or something?
Tesco Bank, he was in Scotland, yeah, but he was also at Celtic at youth level, Mark, wasn't he?
He played for the bank, he captained under somethings back in the 70s or 80s, I've read, wasn't it? So I hope that people haven't jumped the gun with us.
You know, because realistically, Mark, we're looking at here, it's looking more likely Banker's going to step down soon, maybe next year, or, you know, it's looking like he's not getting any younger. You can see that. If I'm looking at him at the moment, I think he looks frail. You know, he looks beyond his days at Celtic, and
I'll be happy here. I feel listen. Sorry about that, Mr. Banker.
But he does, though.
I'll just stand back for that statement. I don't want any part of that.
He looks like a shriveled up fucking cloth that I took out of the sink. You know what I mean? But these are the rumours, like that. Benny Higgins, like, and I could see, like, and I hope we're right, and that maybe the Celtic board are going to appoint Benny McCarthy and not Bernard Higgins here, like, you know what I mean? But it could, Benny Higgins, sorry, but it could be a huge blow to the Celtic fans if it turns out to be the opposite way, couldn't it?
But would you not think...
It would be funny if Celtic just went out and got Benny Higgins rather than Bernard Higgins just to make the support look like idiots.
But would you not think, though, that if Celtic weren't going to appoint this Bernard Higgins guy, that they can see the blood?
You see a lot of people turns to, and you know yourself, like that, if they hear a name.
But
like,
I've seen
this fella's name is Bernard as well, and his kind of name is kind of Benny. They call him kind of Benny. Do you get me?
I know, but I've seen it. If you look it up obviously online, and there's papers going on about it. But like, one Paul is possibly coming in as a chairman. So to mix up the role as a chairman and a guy coming in the head,
it doesn't say chairman. It says
senior role.
Senior role. Senior role.
I'm talking about that Benny Higgins.
Benny Higgins says it doesn't say.
Bernard Higgins is the police. Benny Higgins is the financial guy.
Yeah.
I understand, but what I'm saying is, if you're saying you're talking about that there might be, are you trying to say that there might be a mix-up between the two guys?
Mm-hmm.
Well, basically that's what we're not actually too sure. You know, some other people have said it as well.
Surely would not Celtic have come out and said, if this Bernard Higgins guy for the security side of things, the senior security thing, if he wasn't going for that role, he wasn't going to be appointed for that role, would you not think that Celtic would have come out and basically quashed that, because they can see the anguish and the annoyance that it's causing to the sport?
No, because you've known by the Celtic board, Terence, over the years as well, that they kind of don't make these things public. You know, they don't come out and say stuff. They don't come out and say.
It's definitely going to be our acting CEO, is it? Nobody's heard his voice. He took a job.
You know, I agree with you. That's beyond crazy, but it's just.
It's kind of just a bit light-hearted, because it would be funny, to be honest, Terence, if that was a kind of mix-up.
Well, it'd be hilarious, but it's just, I'm just saying, like...
This is why we brought it up, like, because, like, when Mark said this last night, like, I wanted to talk about...
It's one of the most Celtic things ever. Think about if that actually was that kind of mix-up, that is just one of the most Celtic things ever, the biggest balls on it.
You know what I mean? Because... Well, I was sitting down yesterday and I told Mark, like I said, Mark, we'll talk about Bernard Higgins being brought into the club and how the fan. Next Mark just sends me this thing about Benny Higgins and Ian Banker, and I was going, Jesus, like this is.
Oh, don't be blaming me.
Could it be but could it be a mix-up? Could it be a thing? Like, and for me, for the sake of the board and their relationship with the fans, like I would hope it's a mix-up here. You know what I mean? Because I wouldn't like to think Celtic would consider someone like Bernard Higgins come to the club terms. Do you know what I mean? I would hope there would be some mix-up here.
We've got this security guy. I can't even remember his name now. Ronnie something. So unless this other Bernard Higgins has come in to replace him,
Mm-hmm.
I
That's
don't
what
see,
it's
unless
said,
he's retiring or whatever, because he's been there donkey's years.
But that's what
Ronnie Hawthorne.
That's what the reports were saying, that this Bernard Higgins guy is coming in to replace this other guy who you just mentioned there, the leaving.
So he's leaving, right? That's what I mean. I didn't know that term.
See, this is Celtic Rumours TV, and we report rumours, and we like to start things up.
No, you're insulting me in Bankier and everything.
You know,
I know.
but Bankier, like I'm not going about the Celtic board, and I was looking at this fella Wilson the other day. I saw pictures of him. So he's nearly as old as Bankier. Do you know what I mean? Our board is really aging. You know what I mean? And for Celtic to come on rise, things need to change at board level dramatically. Like a young report, for Nicholson to be CEO, a young man. We say if Nixon became chairman, right? A CEO, and then he's all these old folks around him. Like, do you know what I mean? I just don't think it'd work. You know.
That's how I feel with you, Paul.
What's that?
All these old folk around me and that.
You know, but it is though, Mark. Our board is aging though, isn't it? You know, it's really aging for years. Like, you know what I mean? Like Buzz is saying there that
even that Brian Wilson, what he came out with in the paper the other day.
Yeah, about
Rangers getting demoted and
demoted, yeah, and they're saying it was unfairly treated and stuff. Like, these are fellas on our board level denying that Rangers went into liquidation. Do you know what I mean? You know, we thought
it was going to happen when Lowe left and Ange came in. The way Mackay was at his press conference about modernising the club and things like that, but we've been saying it for months on here, Paul, in terms the boardroom's needing gutted.
Yeah, definitely. You know, definitely, because it's an aging board, and if Celtic are going to modernise or kind of come up with modern times, Terence, that's an area that really needs to change at the club, don't it?
But it does big time, Paul. But the whole side of that, from the start of the season and when Mackay came in and all that,
this is what we thought would kind of happen, like, didn't we?
Yeah, it's all gone backwards because the whole board thing has kind of ceased. There was talks of Dermot Desmond's son coming in and stuff like that. But if you look at then off that as well, Ange doesn't have his own backroom team, in which was talks that this was all going to happen as soon as the transfer window closed. We've got the sports science guy in. There's no director of football. There's no idea if there's going to be a director of football. There's no chief executive. There's no idea if there's going to be a new chief executive. No. So there's so many things on that side of it that is so up in the air that it's not a surprise that there's still a lot of dinosaurs in the boardroom. Like,
and the football's distracting us again for it.
That's it, Mark.
We're looking for the forum.
And that's the problem, Mark, for years, That, Mark,
even though we were winning trebles,
problems are still there, and that's what John Fenley said. Didn't you, Mark?
Look what's going on behind the scenes, and the way the club's actually been run.
That's what John.
Just putting a good product on the park again, but it's the same as Tommy Burns. It's the same as Wim Jansen. It's the same. The problems are still behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes, like that's what kind of is seriously kind of holding Celtic back. Is that, and like, I can't remember the last time I kind of saw a fan media mark popping up on YouTube or anything like that. That kind of has kind of stopped as well at the moment. You know what I mean? I haven't seen. Normally, they kind of, the fans would get an interview with a player and stuff. That doesn't seem to be happening since Mackay left either. You know, like it seems really
I think they done them the other day, Paul. Fan media again.
today.
I'm sure I saw just some of them, but obviously selected few. But I'm sure I saw some of them doing bits of fan media again.
But it's gone back to what I'm trying to say, Mark. It's gone back to as Celtic fans don't need to know what's going behind the scenes. At least we kind of had some idea when McCoy was there what was going on. He was kind of more engaging as a CEO out to the fans and stuff like that. Like, did these board members not like that? That maybe McCoy was too outgoing and he was telling too much what's going on behind the scenes, or you know?
I don't know. I really don't know what goes.
You know, that's the main thing.
I mean,
like,
they're
you know what I
running
mean?
this club, Paul.
Yeah.
And it's back. See, really, when you think about it, Paul, it reminds you about when the Kellys and that were on the club.
Mm-hmm.
This wee clique just grabbing onto power and holding onto it with their fingernails.
Mm-hmm.
And it shouldn't be like that. I mean, we're a PLC now. We've got shareholders, and these people need to answer. They need to come out with answers to
Like
questions.
it is
big, fellow shareholders.
A big blow. I know he spoke at the AGM briefly, but he didn't give a big statement of what his plans are and stuff. He just answered two questions. Nicholson, he just answered two questions. He said, but he hasn't come out and stated what his role is or if he's going to take it on this role either. You know, I mean that's he should be coming out making a statement as well, shouldn't he?
It should be at least. I've said the other week, I think it was, Paul, on one of the podcasts. You'd have thought he'd have at least done a puff piece on like Celtic TV. Right there, the questions you're going to ask me. You know what I mean? Him and Jerry McCulloch or something.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see Paul, as well too, Paul? It's like what Mark is saying. Like, no, we were all expecting this Nicholson guy to come out and at least present himself to the Celtic fans. He doesn't have to. The Celtic fans don't need to know what's going on behind the scenes, as in per se in the boardroom.
No,
but Don McCoy used to just come out. He'd never say exactly what was going to happen, but
he engaged with the fans, kind of.
He did, yeah. But like, if you come out and you just go, well, yeah, we're looking to we're going to try and expand this, and we're going to try and develop that, and we're going to look down the road. We're looking at a director of football. We're going to try and do this for Ange. You can say those things. You don't have to say, well, we're definitely doing this. We're definitely doing this. We're definitely doing this. We're definitely doing this. Celtic fans just want an idea of what's potentially going to happen. You don't have to say, we're definitely going to do that. We might do that. We won't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Don McCoy used to do.
Mm-hmm.
And Don McCoy, because obviously Don McCoy's a lot of his big background was marketing. So his whole marketing thing is to stand there and basically be like a salesman and be like a sales pitch. And in a lot of cases, tell the fans what they want to hear. And fans will go, oh, that's brilliant. This is brilliant. Like doing the forums, getting on face-to-face forums, the times they had the interviews with Ange and himself with fan forums, stuff like that. They're little things, but they mean so much. And then you go from that to a guy who's basically, you don't even see him, let alone hear him.
But see, I've said it as well, Terence, months ago when we first started the podcast. See, ideally, we don't want to be sitting here talking about what our CEO and our board's not doing like consistently. I mean, we know when you're doing podcasts, running forums, there's always fans that are interested in these kind of things. But if we were a well-run club, we wouldn't be sitting here moaning about the board no appointing a director of football, the state were scout. Do you get what I mean? It's
100%. But that's what I'm saying, Mark. If they had come out and given an outline and said, look, we understand the frustrations. We're looking into this. We're going to try and get it resolved as quickly as we can. This is the way we're looking to try to do it. Just a few bullet points. Fans would be happy with it. People don't want to know the nitty-gritty. A lot of people, I would imagine, don't want to know the nitty-gritty, the very fine details behind bits and pieces. But once they see the club,
a lot of people do, Terence, that's what I mean. There's always going to be fans that want to know every single detail, but the majority of fans, if you're winning stuff and you're quite happy, we've spoke about young players coming through and the way the club's getting run, we'll never talk about guys like Nicholson or Banker again.
No, we won't. But even little things like, Mark, for argument's sake, there's been no feedback on but on the role Gordon Strachan came in. Now, we all know what he came in to kind of do, but there hasn't been any development to say.
I was
well,
going to say that earlier.
He's come back and he said, this is the direction we need to go, so we're going to try and go that direction. And then again, the director of football, we're going to try and do this. We understand Ange might be looking at, just little things. And those kind of things, then fans are kind of go, okay, the club are working. At the minute, the silence is deafening. Like, no, it's like you said, if Celtic were struggling this year, they'd be probably
definitely
carnage again. It's the fact that we're happy what's going on the pitch within reason. That if it was the other way, we're kind of, as you said, we're happy enough to kind of go, oh, whatever they're doing, but we're winning on the pitch, so we're happy enough for that. Like.
That's it for tonight, folks. Thanks to Terence and Mark and you guys in the live chat for joining us. Mark will now close the show.
All right, thanks very much, Paul and Terence. Thanks very much for coming on again, bud. Everybody that joined the live chat, William Smith, Buzz Bomb. That's just the names at the bottom of the screen there. Bobby Sutherland. Every live stream I go into watching all these kind of YouTube wars, Bobby Sutherland's in there causing chaos. Need to keep an eye on him in future, I think, lads. But just again, thanks very much. Share it if you can. Leave a like, leave a comment and subscribe. Hail, hail, God bless.